Today's Japanese developers' logic has me angry. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to my channel to see another video that I'm trying to put together about the topic that I have in mind today, and I hope you will like. Maybe you'll agree with me, maybe you won't, but I hope you enjoy it. Anyway, as you saw here on my right, or your right for the viewers, and basically my left, today's topic is, as you saw, was tjdl, has me mad, or angry, if you will. Basically, today's Japanese developer's logic has me angry. And a lot of you are going to say immediately, well, why are you angry about Japanese developers, Heba? What's the problem? What's going on? And that's what I hope to bring forward in this, video using Upload Studios for the very first time on my Xbox One S. Because I got the adapter and I haven't used it, so I figured why not? It's a good topic. Let's try it out. Let's go with the flow. So let's get back right into it. Basically, my biggest gripe is going to be, with four particular Japanese titles coming out, actually five, that are exclusive right now to the PlayStation 4 platform. And, I really don't see the logic and reasoning behind it, which I am going to dispute with my own opinion. And hopefully you'll understand where I'm coming from. You may agree with me, you may not. As you understand, as you all know, and if you haven't, and if you've been following my channel, I'm a rooted gamer. I came from the 80s, I started on Atari. I played, Pong and Odyssey and, in the arcades. My very first console was, the Atari 2600. And I wasn't, I stepped myself in the arcade for a while. We had the recession. And of course, the Super NES came out and the Sega Master System after the recession that we had in gaming. And those were obviously Japanese consoles with Japanese games created by Japanese developers. So, the point is that I'm trying to get out is, and why I feel so upset and angry is because, especially in this generation right now, with the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, I am one of those persons that honestly feels that we've supported Japanese companies and consoles and game developers since, like I said, the Nintendo and Sega, Master System respectively. Sorry about that disappearing. And we've, we embrace the Japanese culture. We have embraced the Japanese material from their anime to their mangas for many, many years. Talking about more than 25 years, if not more, since it started coming here overseas. And I don't understand why all of a sudden, the it's like a new trend where all these new set games, quote unquote Japanese developed games, are only being brought over to the PlayStation 4 console. And a lot of you are going to say, oh, well, it's obvious because, it's the console that's selling more. Okay. I'm not somebody that doesn't keep up with what's going on in current events and the politics of gaming. But, PS4 has a 40 million install base based off shipments. Doesn't mean there's actually 40 million consoles out there. And even though those are the numbers that they're presenting to us as the consumers and in the world of the gaming media and gaming in general, only, if from what I understand, is about 3.7, almost 4 million consoles are right now respectively sold in Japan. And as everybody knows, a lot of us know, those numbers are really not strong numbers. They're not strong numbers at all, because the Japanese market is now more akin to the mobile space. They play on tablets, mobile phones, you get the picture. Even on the 3DS, and even that is not really selling very well the way it used to over there as far as console or portable consoles, because that's a portable unit, obviously. Um, and I know in the 360 era, we got a slew of Japanese games that they brought over, and if you made the comparison numerically against the PS3, uh, a big majority of those games sold better on 360. They had a bigger install base, yes, but they generally sold better. And right now, if you look at the numbers on PlayStation 4, games like, let's say, a Guilty Gear X Sign, which is one of the games I'm talking about, I believe it sold with their worldwide numbers, meaning everything from Canada to the United States to Japan. It's a tally of like 32,000 copies, which is horrible. It's horrendous. It's not really big numbers to brag about. But then again, for those styles of games with not so high on, not so costly or high on budget, it's I guess fair enough or enough for them to warrant making a director's cut, if you will, because I believe another piece of that game came out as a full blown game again as a director's cut. Okay, but here's my problem. Here's my biggest problem. A game like Hellblade, for example. Hellblade is from a company that's called Ninja Theory, right? And Ninja Theory, as you know, or maybe you may not know, I got their first big break, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. Don't quote me. Like I said, I'm saying it up front. Started their big break on the Xbox OG. They did a game called Kung Fu Chaos. Now, Kung Fu Chaos was one of those games that was a party game. It was a really fun game. It was a little gem. If you found it and played it, you actually enjoyed it. So a lot of people didn't even try it. It didn't do well, in other words, on the OG Xbox. But even though it didn't do well, it's still part of the history of Xbox and one of their games because it was exclusive. And I believe they wanted to do Heavenly Sword on Xbox next console or platform. But because of the fact that it was more ambitious, a lot more money, and Microsoft hadn't proven itself enough yet in the console space because, as you know, the OG Xbox didn't sell as well as the PlayStation 2 was late to the game, was more expensive. For the time, even though it was more advanced, people were still stuck and clinged on the PlayStation platform because it's what they knew, was familiar, was what was popular. For most people, not for me because I didn't buy one. I never bought one until way later to get some Sega exclusives. Now, I did buy an Xbox though, original, because it had more of what I wanted, especially with the releases of certain Sega games that were exclusive to the platform. I'm a big Sega fan, as a lot of you may know. Now, again, and so because of this, they did not. Microsoft could not fund them the money to make that game. And so they went to Sony, obviously, because remember at that time Sony was the big dog. Sony was doing very big things, very big numbers because of the success of the PlayStation 1 and the PlayStation 2, respectively, obviously. Okay. Now, Heavenly Sword didn't sell well at all on the PlayStation 3. It was a debacle. It didn't sell. And I thought generally the game was actually pretty good, pretty decent. But then you knew later after they made Enslave. Enslave came out for 360 and PS3. And Enslave sold a lot better on the Xbox 360. And I believe it performed better on the Xbox 360. Enslave was a really good game, excuse me for that. It was a really good game. Very well thought out with Bunkian, the main character, and the girl in the future fighting robots, which was awesome. Awesome game for the time. Had a very reminiscent feel of the atmosphere of kind of like Recore, Now, so I don't understand why Hellblade is exclusive to PlayStation 4. Because the last console they were on was 360, for example, and Slave, which was their last game, sold better. on 360. I'm not saying it did phenomenally better than the PS4, but it did, and that should warrant and count for something. Now, Microsoft Xbox One's install base right now is mainly in the North American market and some of Europe and Canada, right? You got to understand that the North American market, which I don't have to repeat myself, is the most highest selling market for video games in general. Everyone knows this, and whoever doesn't know this, you can look it up and do your own research, and you'll find it. And they have almost a 30, maybe a 32 million install base of what's based on what they shipped. Maybe 29, 28, whatever the case may be, but they still have a nice amount of almost more than half than what Sony PS4's install base is. So why, logically, would these Japanese developers alienate the Xbox community? For it just doesn't make no sense. Now, I know that the Xbox gamers are known more as, quote unquote, we have the reputation that we only like American style games like the Call of Duties and the Battlefields and the Halos, and things of that nature. And that may be true because there's a big multiplayer community out there now that wants to just play all the time to compete, or just because they like killing each other for fun. That's not my cup of tea, but a lot of people enjoy it. So it is a part of gaming. They enjoy it. It is what it is. So I don't understand. But no one ever said, and there's no proof facts that we do not enjoy, Xbox gamers, meaning, Japanese developed games. JRPGs maybe are not as popular, but because, they're very old school style. They feel very dated. So a lot of people don't like playing games that feel older and dated. And, not like somebody like Zobi, shout outs to him, that he's a true purist because he grew up with JRPGs. Those were the first games he was introduced to when he got his PlayStation 1 when he was very young by his dad, as he said in many of his videos. So I respect Zobi for that because Zobi grew up with it and that's what he likes. He's a true PlayStation fan because they always had those really hardcore Japanese JRPGs that you couldn't get anywhere else. and I understand that. But other games, like, let's say another example, Berserk. Now, as you know, Berserk came out for Sega Dreamcast. Now, I'm not the one that needs to be corrected, but I know for a fact that when the Dreamcast was coming out, there was a lot of PlayStation fans, if not most, that said, I'm not getting Dreamcast because Dreamcast is not going to be more powerful than the upcoming PlayStation 2 because they made the announcement shortly after the launch and the success of the Dreamcast, one of the most successful consoles in launch history for the first 24 hours. Shout outs and thanks to Peter Moore. The man's a genius. Now, the Dreamcast was the most powerful console at the time for a very reasonable price, which was $200, and brought all the bells and whistles like online gaming, very futuristic features like VMU, picking your plays with the sports games, plus arcade games that were never, the arcade perfect that was never done before in a console right from launch, okay? And very easy hardware to program for. And these so-called gamers, quote unquote, that consider themselves real gamers and they go by the code or Sony code today saying that Sony only makes real games. It's a real gamers console, which I don't see how, because they have no real AAA titles. They just have older PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 games that are being repurposed right now for PS4, which that's not why you buy a new generation console, to play older games. You buy them to play new games, and the older games, if they remaster them, are fillers, they're bonuses, not the actual games that are keeping the console afloat. So Berserk is by Tecmo Kyo, and they only brought out Arslan, from what I understand, and Dynasty Warriors 5, which nobody really likes anymore because it's an older game, it feels very dated, they don't really like it. Berserk was supported on Dreamcast. The PlayStation fans didn't support Berserk because they didn't buy Dreamcast. A lot of them didn't, I'm not saying all of them are right now are like that, or not fans, but a lot of them didn't. And I know a lot of people on Xbox that are Dreamcast fans, that are Berserk fans, and that would go out and buy this game. So I know it will sell at least somewhat decent, or at least I believe it will. I mean, I could be wrong, but from what I'm seeing in my experience, I don't think it won't. I think it will do fairly well. And then we have games like, for example, Nier Automata, another game that came out for 360. That if you look at the numbers, it didn't do great, but it sold better on 360. Okay, with a bigger install base. I get it, but it still sold better. Okay, so that means the 360 fans still embraced the game and the Japanese culture. And not to mention that it's being done by Platinum Games, which right now they're on fire because they've done project after project, and with the big upcoming and highly regarded Scalebound, that is a four-player Japanese style with urban style action RPG with dragons. That is a four-player co-op that's never really been done before. The hype is real. So by with Kenji Hideki Kamiya, he's the one behind it. Okay, and he did games like Vanquish that did very well, and Bayonetta 2, and these guys have done. They have a beautiful Joe. They got like their portfolio is amazing. They did recently the Transformers Devastation, which was phenomenal, and even the Ninja Turtles, but it was a little bit lackluster because I believe the publishers forced them to hurry up the project, and they did it as quick as possible, and it kind of feels like it was missing something, even though it's not terrible, but it's not great. It's a very average game, and that's coming from a big, Platinum Game fan like Metal Gear Solid Revengeance. Amazing game, very difficult but very good. Why wouldn't you bring Nier Automata to the Xbox family or the Xbox ecosystem? It just doesn't make no sense, especially with Scalebound around the horizon. I mean, the hype is there. And then you have obviously, other games like, for example, Nio. Okay, Nio is by none other than Team Ninja. Now everybody knows that Team Ninja started their 3D endeavors with their games on the OG Xbox with Ninja Gaiden, Ninja Gaiden Black, Dead or Rising, Dead or Alive, Dead Rising, excuse me, the Dead or Alive 3, and Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball, which were all done by Tobunobu Itagaki and his team that was created by him, which was Team Ninja. And Itagaki left because they own him royalties still from Beach Volleyball and Dead or Alive 3, which they never paid him, and even Dead or Alive 4, I believe, afterwards on the 360. So, Itagaki didn't want Ninja Gaiden 2 to go to the PlayStation console because the console couldn't handle what he wanted to do with the game. And that was one of the discussions and arguments and why it led to where it led, where they let him go and he left. Because he runs his games in 60 frames, and the cell processor was too difficult to create games for, and the developers didn't want to deal with that disaster. It was just a lot more resource heavy and manpower, and they couldn't have that budget to like flex it in that time. Obviously to flex that type of money to make the games, and evidently, he ended up leaving. He created Valhalla Games, which I hope one day maybe Microsoft can pick them up if they're smart, because he makes tremendous games. He made Devil's Third for the Wii U recently, and I can honestly tell you the game is fantastic. He has a lot of potential, but you can tell that he had a limit in his budget because that game went from here to there to here to there. It was supposed to be 360 and PS3, and I guess nobody wanted to really fund it. He needed a full funding, and only the Nintendo brand funded it for him. And I'm not disappointed because the game was at least decent. It's definitely a 7 at least, or 7.5. If for those who played it or haven't played it, you can check it out and see for yourself. So those games, those games belong on where? They belong on the Xbox platform as well. Why? Because they started in the Xbox ecosystem. I love Japanese, style games. I have games like you see here. Look, I have Arslan. Okay, based on the anime. I have, Blaze Blue, which just came out by Arc System Works. I have the Attack on Titans. Okay, And now, obviously, I have Recore, which is made by Kinji Inafune-san from the Mega Man and Metroid Prime Bane. And, it's very Western Japanese style, but also with Americanized style. Uh, and I have games like Crimson Dragon, which respectfully is a spiritual successor to the Panzer Dragoon series that Sega created back then with, with developers I believe were Smilebit, I think. I could be wrong. It probably was one of their other outhouse, but y'all get the point. And there's other nice little gems on Xbox that feel very Japanese. A lot of other ones on the indie market that people don't even know about that are Japanese games that you can buy. Like a game, like a shooter, like the newly released Stardust Galaxy Warriors, which is awesome, and it's 4-player co-op. The point is basically, we have to. I can't. I'm not speaking for everybody in the Xbox community, okay? And then again, at the same time, I kind of am. But the point is it's better to have the option than not have it at all. To have the Xbox community have the option to go out and get these games is better than not having it at all. So that we can go out and support them and make the choice to go out and support them. But I can guarantee you, by forcing the Xbox community to go out and buy another console just to own those games is not a good thing. Because what about if they can't afford both consoles? Or they don't want to buy both consoles because there's just not enough games to warrant the purchase. They just want to get it for maybe one game. No one wants to pay $400 or $350 or $200 or $300 for just one game. You just don't. Now, am I trying to baby cry? No, absolutely not. I'm a root gamer. I came for where it started. I paved the way for what you guys have now as a gamer from back then, and for the Japanese gaming community and developers and Japanese game companies that made hardware. So I feel I have a right to stand up and say how I feel. Whether you agree with me or not is irrelevant. It's everybody has an opinion. It's just my opinion. But opinions are like buttholes. Everybody has one. But there is a difference between an opinion and an educated one, which I learned from a wise woman told me one time. And she was absolutely right. So the Xbox community has to stand up and be vocal on Twitter, on these Facebook pages with these developers, and let them know, listen, we want these games. Maybe not everybody in the Xbox community may like them, but for those who do, we have the option. We don't have to feel the obligation and feel like we're forced to have to go buy another console just to play them. And not for nothing, what gets me the most upset is that these other people on the Sony fan base make it seem like, it's okay when it's not, because what it makes it look like is like the Japanese developers are not only being biased to their product, they're being racist to the gaming community in North America. And that's not me making it up. That's just exactly what it looks like. And that's exactly what it feels like. Like if our money's not good enough. And there's no excuses, because this game, Attack on Titans, came out, but it was because it cost them a lot of money to make. Something like Final Fantasy from Square Enix is going to come out because it cost them a lot of money. So they know they need to make up a lot of that revenue back. So there's no excuses for the other smaller titles, because those titles are probably not titles that cost them a lot to make in the first place. The budgets weren't big. They weren't, big budget titles to create or develop. So why not bring them out? If you didn't pay much to make them, bringing them out in more consoles and platforms, it's just going to give you a better chance of making more money from them. So it's a win-win for everybody as far as I'm concerned. So, again, I'm not damage controlling for anybody, but I do think that what's going on with these Japanese developers is wrong. And the main reason why is because Sony is not funding none of these games. Okay, you heard me again. Sony is not funding Nioh, Hellblade, Nier Automata, the Guilty Gear X Signs. They didn't fund that. Okay, which Arc System Ware had that on the OG Xbox as well. That was on the 360 as well. They sold very well, or at least decent on the 360. I believe more than the PlayStation 3 as well. So there's not no excuses. And now they got other licenses like River City Ransom and Double Dragon. And if that just scares me, because that tells me if they make a Double Dragon in the future, which I'm a big beat 'em up fan, they're not going to bring it to the Xbox. Because they just brought out the old classic Double Dragon 2 The Revenge on the PlayStation Network and not on Xbox when Double Dragon 1 was first released on Xbox Live Arcade with the 360. And now the Xbox Live Arcade doesn't have Double Dragon and it's on PlayStation Network. Okay? That's ridiculous. Why? If you know what I'm saying? You don't alienate the market that way. That's not right. So, the point is, Sony didn't fund the game. So if Sony funded the game, there's a big difference. Then I can understand. But remember, Microsoft funded Tomb Raider. And Tomb Raider's coming to PlayStation 4. Now, maybe it was a deal that Microsoft did that they agreed on leaving it exclusive for a whole year as long as they helped them develop and fund it and promote and market the game. But I don't think so. I think Square Enix went behind their back. I really believe, because they got pressured, because they are the Japanese developer company, and they've done games throughout the years, for many years, on PlayStation's platform. And they were like, hey, listen, you're going to say something? And they felt the pressure, and they broke before the game even came out and hurt the sales potentially for the Xbox One console. Okay? So if that doesn't look like bias to you or like some type of stereotype between the Japanese developers and their product, then I don't know how much clearer you want it. You're just playing the dumb role because it's as clear as day. So again, we need to stand up, the Xbox community, tweet out, fight for these games to come out. Whether we all like them or not is irrelevant. The point is, we need the option and we deserve the choice as gamers. We should not have to go buy another console just to get these games that especially is being developed by third-party developers, and Sony is not funding the games. Just like Shenmue, Yu Suzuki was put on stage just to help him promote his upcoming Kickstarter to make Shenmue 3. They are not funding the game, okay? And that is not right. Why would you leave it on one console if you know they're not helping you fund it? And there's no bias, there's no racism against the American gaming, North American gaming side of things? I don't think so. Okay, I think there's some type of bias there and some type of, that they don't want us to get our hands on their products. Okay, I know it may sound stupid, but that's the way it feels like. That's the way it looks like. So again, anyway, thank you for joining me. Leave a comment. Tell me what you guys think. I want to hear from you guys, how you feel about it. Let me know down in the comments, please. And, I'll try to answer you if I see it. But don't get stupid. Don't troll. This is being mature. Check me out at intromediagaming.com with Mr. 100 and the guys. A great site, great movement. They are all types of different flavors. They all have love for gaming and Xbox. Come check them out and join them, okay, in the movement and see their material because you won't be disappointed. Come check me out in my Facebook group at The World of Xbox with New Legal Felon, Sean Rollins, Chris Dove, and a lot more in the gang. Those guys are not necessarily YouTubers, but they support the YouTube community. I am their voice of representation for their, ARC, which is the gaming webpage, Facebook group. So again, like, comment, share, subscribe. Remember, if you subscribe, I'm very grateful because I know you don't have to, but you become part of the family. And shout outs to my boy Iraq 8150, Sega Forever, aka Master, Xbox All In, Master Chief, Sir Merkham, Tuck Master, Big Kahuna, NWO Prime, Kenny Thomas, J Long, Kaleidoscope, all the guys out there that do their own thing and do this for the love of gaming. Xbox for life, like a sickness that can't be cured. I'll see you next time.
Misala is closed. Hebot is out.